Hello and welcome to the Silk Football Podcast. I am your host, Hodgie, and joining me on this bright and sunny morning in London is Mr. Paul Nelson, all the way from New Zealand. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening. It is a cold and dark evening over here in Wellington.
Oh, no. Well, to be honest, it's been pretty cold and miserable and dark here. I mean, the sun's came out, but yesterday it was like cats and dogs. You are joining us for this live episode on YouTube. And we've got some great bits to go in, a little bit of a blooper thing before we get it all started. So season 4, episode 5 coming live, and we're going to be talking all things Spurs and Chelsea. And I'm sure Paul might have a few lively little questions for me to answer. So it's no sort of like predictive script. We're just going to be like winding each other up a little bit and maybe and seeing where we go. I know Paul's got some questions to ask me about Chelsea, and I've got some questions to ask him about Spurs. So we're going to crack off with, not literally crack off because that would just be rude on camera, but and probably inappropriate for the YouTube terms and conditions.
Before the watershed.
Yeah, there we go. So, all right, away. Hit me with your first question.
I want to know where all your money's coming from. So, was it a stat where it's like $500 million has been spent already?
More.
On a bizarre collection of players who don't seem, from the outside at least, to fit into any kind of structure or strategy. It just seems to be, I don't know if you've seen the if you've seen the meme going around. It was sent in a couple of my Tottenham chat groups of a shirt with Chelsea's new sponsor on it.
Well, I haven't. No. And I still. I mean, we're still sponsorless on our shirt, but apparently it's Infinite Athlete. But I could presume it could be something like Infinite Signings or something.
It was a mocking of a popular car advert over in the UK, along the lines of "We buy any."
Oh yeah, we buy it. Yeah, or yeah, or if someone else wants to buy them, then we'll go and buy them. Now, apologies if I sound a little bit raspy and a bit this morning because I managed to bite my tongue during my sleep, so I have a sore tongue, so I sound a bit lispy.
So my long-winded question: why is there a strategy, and where is all the money coming from?
In terms of strategy, it has been a bit scattergun. Now, I'm a big fan of TalkSport. Not a particularly massive fan of Simon Jordan, but sometimes he does talk some sense. And he did a video which you can all check out on TalkSport on their social media page, which kind of explains how we are getting around the sort of like the FFP conundrum. I mean, to bear this in mind, I mean, just in this window, not counting what we did in the last window and that as well, and since Todd and Clearlake and whatnot all took over, we've spent just in this window so far 417 odd million, which is a staggering amount of money. But we've actually bought in over 250 million on sales, with a number of homegrown players, which obviously we sold as well, which accounts for all profit. I mean, that's, obviously it's not necessarily all profit because you have invested in them throughout their academy and throughout their careers and contracts, etc.
Profit for the balance sheet.
For the balance sheet, yeah. So and because a lot of the players that we have bought in, they're all young players, and all the contracts are long. So on the balance sheet, the way it works with FFP is it's kind of like segmented over the terms of that player's contract. So by doing what we're doing, which is, I think it's going to come to an end because I think the Premier League are looking to go in line with European rules in terms of other European leagues where they have got they put a cap in of a maximum of 5 years that you can pay across, on your books, you can put across a contract. But on the current Premier League FFP rules, it's unlimited. So like your likes of Mudryk, Caicedo, they're like 7-8 year deals. So, you know, you break that amount down. So like, you know, some of them players are only really going to cost us like, you know, 15 mil a year across the balance sheet, across the spread of that contract. So that's how we're getting around it on FFP. But all those players, and a lot of them that we've let go, are players that we actually signed under Todd anyway. And obviously we still owed money on their contracts because we hadn't actually paid up what they were worth, because obviously we were still paying in installments to the clubs that we owed. So, and you're getting an enormous amount of money with a lot of those players off the wages. And a lot of these young players that are coming in are on, despite the massive transfer fees, are on nowhere near the amount of wages that some of the other players, the likes of Koulibaly, you know, Mendy and all that were on. They were on stupid money. You know, Mason Mount, for instance, you know, if he was to sign the new contract that we were offering, it would have pushed his money up like 3 or 4 times the times what he was already earning. And we wouldn't go beyond that on this new strategy we got. So yeah, that's kind of how we're getting around it. Is it
sustainable? So if the money is spread across 8 years or a long time, are the players' contracts spread across the same period?
Yeah,
okay,
it is. But you kind of you're going to have to kind of keep doing this revolving door thing. So every year, and obviously we've bought a lot of young players. So in terms of going forward, these players could be around for, you know, 6-7 years if they work out and they're good enough for the squad, etc. But then you'll get to the stage where, you know, your Sterlings and 1 or 2 of the other players that are sort of like mid-20s now will start approaching towards either getting down towards, they've kind of got this thing about they won't let a player get into within that second year of the contract. So once they hit 2 years on the contract, they either sign a new contract or you're going to get sold.
Where you're at.
Yeah. Which, and if, you know, which is a good idea with young players, because they're not really hitting that peak of their contracts of what they're going to turn around and say, listen, you know, I'm 27, 28 now. I'm in the peak of my career. I think I should be getting paid. Well, the agents, I think I should be getting paid this amount of money. And we're going to be like, well, find a new club, probably in the Saudi league. So, because you know they're chucking money at everything.
They're
so
the ones with the cash.
Yeah.
So first win of the season.
Yeah.
Is it working?
There, to a degree, you can see the improvement. I mean, if you look at our actual XG compared to where we were under, you know, Potter and under Frank, it's much better. We are creating far more touches in the opponent's box. So, but with young players comes inconsistency. So I think Poch has to be given time. I don't see the point in hiring a manager like Poch if you're not going to give him the time. But yeah,
that
massive.
Me to hear you say that man's name.
well, we'll come on to that. It's still raw. It's still very raw. But yeah, I think you have to give young players time, and they're not always going to be perfect. Well chuffed that obviously Nicholas Jackson has got off the mark and got a goal, because that'll do his confidence in front of goal the world of good. And you know, his overall play in terms of his hold up play, he's running in behind, running in the channels, has created so much space for the likes of Sterling. I don't think it's any kind of you know, it doesn't surprise me one bit that Sterling is all of a sudden come to life, because I think Poch is the right kind of manager for Sterling. It's kind of like a now or never for Sterling at Chelsea, because he's getting to like that age that we'd said about he could be gone. So he's come to life. But I think a lot of that's off the back of some of the other younger players that they bring energy to the team. But yeah, there will be mistakes, particularly at the back. I mean, you know, we'll still concede goals, but as long as we can start putting them in, I mean, even last season when we were terrible, we were still creating a ridiculous amount of chances, but we just didn't have anyone to put them away, and that's the problem. I mean, that's been the problem for the last 3 managers, that they've not had a proper number 9. Nicholas Jackson is a proper number 9, but you also have to bear in mind he's 22. You know, he's only had one proper season in Villarreal. which towards the end of that season he sort of like came on fire. And if we didn't get him, someone else would. And I can't. Well, that goes back to Chelsea's transfer policy. If we don't buy that player, then someone else is going to just pay the money. But yeah, I just got to be a bit patient. I mean, that's it. That's all. We have to do. I know a lot of Chelsea fans already are a bit, same old. But the guy's only been in here for 3 games. We had a great preseason.
That's why I'm surprised with Poch, because Chelsea isn't a project club.
No.
If you were a project club, you would have given Potter more time. You would have given him an opportunity.
I think with Potter, it was the right idea, but the wrong man. And he was my choice. He was my choice for the manager's job at the time, because I liked what he did at Brighton. I liked the style of football. I just think when push came to shove, I think it was just too big for him at the time. And you never felt, the way he carried himself in the interviews and stuff like that. He just never felt that he had the dressing room. He never felt that the fans were ever going to get behind him, because it's like, the way this guy talks after we've had a bad result, and he's like making excuses, and just it very quickly become that this is not going to be a good fit. So you need a manager that could do what Potter can do, that also has the ego and the personality to carry the club, carry the last 20 years of the history and what we've done and what we've won, but equally be able to develop new players, etc. And obviously, having seen what he did at Spurs, and no question in my mind, if he'd have had the proper backing from Levy, that he would have gone on, regularly got you in top 4, regularly put you in a position where you could have picked up more trophies, but he just wasn't backed. And then when it came down to it, obviously we see what happens, that him and Levy fall out, and then Levy ain't going to go, so so Poch was going to go. But yeah, when we came up, and towards the end of the season, obviously we had Frank, and there were managers being mentioned, like Zidane, and which was ridiculous. Poch was my clear, obvious favourite, and the one I wanted for it. Much to your pains. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How did the Chelsea fans view him? How long will it be before is he a Chelsea manager yet, or is he still the Spurs manager?
No, I think the vast majority of the fans, he is a Chelsea manager. And the thing is that obviously, because you see so much now of what goes on at like training grounds, and you see the way he is in training, you get the clips and the way he is with the players, and the way he shouts and screams at them and demands more from them. As a fan, you can only want that from a manager. You want to see that passion. You want to see that they care. And I don't necessarily think that the complete dislike goes 100% both ways with Chelsea and Spurs. I think there's far more angst on the Spurs side than there is.
Do you genuinely believe that?
Yeah, and
yeah,
I do. Don't get me wrong. There is a it's not like it's like a 60-40 thing. I mean, it is.
I would say it's more the other way.
No, because I don't, because maybe for a slightly older generation, but for a generation like myself, or particularly for millennials, it just isn't that there. I mean, the older generation, yeah, because they understand the history and they understand the rivalry, but those generations generally are not coming to the games anymore. So the more, not necessarily my generation, because I'm old, I'm 44, but but I would say that the 20 to 30 age bracket, which is predominantly what you're getting, most crowds at Chelsea in that, and most club probably.
All right, so
last 20 years we've just been winning everything, so
Okay, so I'm surprised. I'm genuinely surprised what you said. I can't believe we haven't had this conversation before.
Oh well, yeah.
So based on what you just said, then who would be the team that the fixtures come out and the Chelsea fans look for, who's the big rival then, if it is named up?
I would say like in recent times, I mean, going back to like the Champions League games and all that, Liverpool would have been right up there. In terms of challenging us for league titles when we were winning league titles and that, it would have been United's, Arsenal and stuff like that. But you always knew though, but when the Spurs game came around and we see that, and we took great delight in hurting Spurs. Probably
you
more.
didn't play for one season,
Yeah,
and you turned up for 45 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is it. Yeah, the Leicester, Leicester season, which you should have won. You should have won that. There's so many big clubs that had an off season, and it was there for the taking, and incredibly somehow Leicester do it, and it goes down in history. But yeah, that should have been a year.
You wouldn't have turned up like that for Arsenal, or you wouldn't have turned up like that for West Ham.
And what it is in terms of my perspective, anyway, I don't hate Spurs, but then because I love football and I love watching football. I know Chelsea fans that Spurs are the game on Sunday, that TV ain't going on. But I've never necessarily felt, maybe because I haven't been to Stamford Bridge enough on those particular fixtures that I've necessarily, felt the heat when I'm in and around the grounds. Coming out and going down into the tube station when it's it's all kicking off or whatever, and it ain't banter, and it is, it's vitriol. But I don't know. I've never felt. I mean, me and you have never. We've always had banter and stuff like that, and we'll give each other a bit of needle or whatnot. But it's never been like pure furious anger towards it.
No, not between the two of us.
Well, no,
but always. It's always, as a South London supporting Spurs fan, just Arsenal's a big one. Arsenal's the one where you get the build up, and you've got Nottingham the week before.
Yeah,
but Chelsea does a funny thing to me on the day.
I mean, the thing is that we've got a few clubs that we have that kind of thing. I mean, Leeds, for some reason, Leicester. We've got a bit of a thing with Leicester, and obviously our very near neighbours, Fulham, who've taken. I mean, they're probably going to be singing about it for years. They've taken no end of pleasure the fact of how bad a season we had last year and that they finished above us. And yet again, it's like I go back like this. We don't hate Fulham, but every song that they sing is about us. Every song is a Chelsea hate song, literally. Other than like "Come On You Whites." But yeah, I suppose the thing is that when you are winning a lot and you're winning a lot regularly, then it's difficult that you don't kind of like have a hate towards the club, because if you're at the top of the tree regularly winning stuff, then other clubs are naturally going to hate you and want to beat you more. Obviously, the likes of Man City, are finding that out. It will, despite how good they are, it will get harder for them. Once other clubs get their act together and start really challenging. But I mean, that this season, I remember saying at the start of this current season we're doing here now, particularly with City, I think this is a year where there may be an opportunity for a club to take advantage of City winning everything and maybe just coming off the gas a little bit. It's whether clubs like obviously us in a rebuild, yourselves in a bit of a rebuild, losing your star player, etc. It's whether or not we can go that extra step. Which
we're both not in Europe, which I think is majorly beneficial to us.
I think so. And the last time that we had a season like we had last year, we went on and won the league. I'm not saying we're doing that. And I think even this season, maybe if I'm going on a bit of a projection for for Chelsea for this season. I think maybe even top 4 might be a little bit of a step too far, despite the money. Because like I was going back to what I was saying with young players, I think I'd be happy with getting some sort of European football for next season to build on. So if we can kind of get into the top 6 and have a little sniff around the top 4, just to give these young players a bit of a scent of what's possible, I'd be happy with that. Yeah, right. Well, that's Chelsea out of the way.
Keep Maurizio in a job.
I think it will. I think it will.
So top 6 would keep him.
I think so. I think we have to, for the sake of FFP and all that as well. Even though, like, the Conference League, Europa League, it's not a massive amount of income. It generates other income and merchandise wise and etc. Just being in those competitions, which is obviously vital for the balance sheet as well. So I think, and of course, anything better than last season is progression. So and you have to, you have to keep moving forward. Yeah. But I mean, let's touch on Poch a little bit, because obviously, it's not in terms of your perspective, looking from the outside in, and obviously, it's not a happy thing for you to see.
Oh, it's horrible. When you see him in that Chelsea tracksuit, it rolls you a bit, to be honest. But I don't know. You can't blame it. The man wants to work. He likes to live in London.
No,
and no one from Tottenham put a call into him.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, there was an opportunity. He was, he's a free agent. There was an opportunity to take him. But yeah, so let's talk about your manager then, and we'll talk about Spurs. Because, we've talked about Chelsea and all our money and Todd and everything else. Not that it's got us very far. 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. But yeah. But yeah, so obviously now, it looks like I made a massive error in my prediction, because I cheekily said in the first episode of this season that I thought Ange would be first for the chop this season on the Premier League managers managerial merry-go-round. It looks like I am going to be very wrong, because you've had a real promising start.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to live in the moment, so not to get carried away. I think I said to you last time we spoke, it wouldn't surprise me if we were not, no points from the first 2 or 3 games as the players.
Well, it's a tricky start.
A completely different game, completely brand new players and a completely different way to play.
Yeah.
But they seem to have picked it up straight away. So
do you think with losing Kane in an odd way could be beneficial to him as a manager going forward for Spurs? And I mean that in the context of maybe the pressure's a little bit less, not having a world-class, albeit you have actually got Brazil's number 9 up front, but I'm coming on to that. Albeit the fact that, you've lost this 30, 40 goal a season striker. Yeah.
I think it definitely gives this season a pass. If we were 7 points from 9 with Kane, then I think we'd all be thinking, hang on, we can do something here.
Yeah.
Whereas because we haven't got him, the defence, we kept 2 clean sheets. The defence looks good.
Yeah.
The midfield is solid. I would argue that the midfield is potentially one of the best midfield threes in the Premier League. But what isn't firing is the front three. The balance of the front three is not right. It's not working. You can see that after 3 games. Hopefully he'll persevere and it will come good, but at the minute it's not working.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that, your midfielders aren't going to score every week. So I think we scored 6 goals this season in the 3 games, and we've had 6 different goal scorers.
Yeah.
I think one was also, but technically we've had 6 different goal scorers. So you're not going to carry on with that. We need somebody to step up.
I mean, my question is, next question on that is basically, a new number 9, or do you persevere with your current one? Because I mean, you're not a bad striker if you're consistently being picked as the number 9 for Brazil, and international level. You know, he scores bucket loads. You know, he plays ahead of Gabriel Jesus. But for whatever reason, in the Spurs shirt, it just hasn't happened. I mean, it's what, 3? I think he's only scored 3 goals. I mean, I know they talk about, like, you know, Chelsea having a bit of a hoodoo on the forward shirt, but 50 million for 3 goals.
Tottenham's hoodoo on the main striker goes back.
Yeah,
way before Kane. You think of your likes of Soldado, Reverov.
yeah,
we
and
have
some serious money. Yeah,
Kane has Kane for pretty much 10 years.
I
Covered that up and gave
struggled.
a free pass.
I struggled before Kane to really rack my brains around, like, thinking about Spurs number 9s. And I struggled for names in my head before him. I really did. Same names that you thought of, but in terms of one, and I went all the way back to Klinsmann.
Well, you'd be talking pre-Kane. You're looking at Adebayor, Crouch, them type of guys. I mean, Defoe, Keane, not necessarily number 9s, but attackers in the days where you play the partnership.
And I think Defoe probably before Kane would have been the last one to probably hit 20 goals.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you shouldn't do it, and we shouldn't do it. But if you compare Kane and Richarlison hasn't scored 50 Premier League goals.
No,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous for a number 9.
And he has got quality, though. You think he has got quality, but yesterday he was terrible.
So James Ward-Prowse has more Premier League goals
than Richarlison.
So
the thing is, this is his 3rd Premier League club.
Yeah, he's played for Watford, Everton, and now Spurs.
Yeah,
and for Watford and Everton, he was the main man. And Premier League strikers should be getting 15 to 20 goals a season. So at best, it should be taking, at worst, it should be taking you 3.5 seasons to get to 50 goals.
And this is the problem. And it goes back to, obviously, when you had Harry, is that when Harry was out, there was a lot of pressure on Sonny to step up and almost become that provider of the goals. And that ain't really happening with him at the moment.
No, because he's playing very, very wide. He's playing as a winger. So my solution would be, actually, you put Son through the middle, and I would play Perisic on the left. And then we also signed that guy, Solomon, who was at loan at Fulham.
Yeah, you got Velez as well. We haven't seen nothing of him yet.
He's a striker. Yeah, he's not going to be involved until next year. But I would play Perisic because he's got he's got an amazing delivery.
Yeah,
put Son through the middle.
That quality.
And then you've also got that Solomon, who we haven't seen too much of, but he could come on, and he's another option.
Yeah.
And then Richarlison from the bench if you need it.
And of course, this all goes back, to the Levy and Joe Lewis thing, and probably not so much Joe Lewis anymore, but the trust or whatever. Transfer window is still open, and the options for bringing in a striker.
We won't bring one in. We need to.
And there ain't many left out there, really, like good quality ones. I mean, someone who I think would be ideal for Spurs is Kolo Muani at Frankfurt. And I know, like, PSG and all that are sniffing, but for me, looking at him and the qualities he brings and the way Ange seems to want to play, he seems to like playing that front three very, very high. So that, like, the press obviously can start from the front, but equally on a transition, you've got those players that are directly in, threatening attacking areas. But
we won't bring another striker. We won't get another striker in this window.
No,
we need to ship out loads of players and probably, hopefully, sign one more centre half, because we're Romero and Van der Ven have looked a decent partnership.
Yeah, I really like the look of Van der Ven.
Yeah, we haven't really even seen his pace yet, but he looks good. It's good.
Yeah, to me, he's got
that. Everyone gets injured. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got that kind of feeling about him, that sort of like Vertonghen, Alderweireld kind of. I know he's from, being Dutch and whatnot. It's not a million miles away from, but the comparisons are
But he's
there.
also, he looks classy. I mean, he's
that's
also
a good sign.
ridiculously quick. But him or Romero get injured, and then all of a sudden the drop in quality at centre half, and if you had to play without one of them for a month or 6 weeks, all of
you're in a bit of trouble.
You were in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Stafford and Sanchez, isn't it?
We need, it will be Sanchez. Who, to be fair, when he came in, has done all right, but I don't think you can rely on him to do well for a month or 6 weeks. So we'd need to sign another top centre half.
I mean,
and that's where, and the focus has to be on getting players out and then getting that centre half in. So a striker would have to wait till January. So I think we'll persevere with probably Richarlison first choice, and then Son as the backup option if all else fails.
I've been quite lucky. I've managed to watch all 3 games of Spurs, and in the first game, I thought Emerson Royale did really, really well, especially in this bit where like he's kind of getting the fullbacks to, once the transition of play moves into the midfield, that not so much with the left back, because I don't think he wants to put too much pressure on Udogie at the moment, because he's obviously settling in and but particularly on that right back slot where they sort of like come in and make up a fourth in the midfield. No question that Pedro Porro's good on the ball. He's got a good passing range and all that, but I think he's too much of a liability, even more of a liability defensively than Emerson Royale. And Emerson Royale is not brilliant in terms of, but I thought Emerson Royale did really, really well in that first game, particularly stepping in. And of course, he's got the goal.
Yeah, he did. He scored. I was surprised when Porro came in, particularly bearing in mind we were playing against a better attacking unit. So you think you put your more defensive player in there, or your more solid defensive player in there. And then Porro came in. He did well. He got a crossbar against United. And we didn't really had a couple of dodgy passes at the beginning. We didn't really get caught out other than that. And of course, he was in today as well with the unchanged team today. So but it's good at right back that we've got.
You've got a few options.
Got some strength. We've got a couple of options there, but the centre half. We need a centre half, and then we've got a lot of players that we need to get rid of. So,
how are you feeling about your new keeper? I think he's done. I think he looks all right. Seems pretty good. Pretty good on the ball as well, which seems to be the whole trend. You need to be good on the ball.
He's at a new club. He's in a new country with back four he's never played with. A back four that's never played with the club. So you got to allow him 1 or 2 errors. As I say, I think the thing with Spurs at the moment is literally living in the moment. So not thinking about top 4 or top 6 or trying to win something. Just enjoy the fact that
you're playing better football.
We're playing well. And
I mean, the Maddison goal was a thing of beauty. It really was. The passing, the movement. Young Sarr, I really like the look at. But anchoring all that, and of course you mentioned him a little bit earlier, Basuma, and you're starting to see in these first three games. Obviously, Andrew's gone. Listen, you're my man. I trust you in there, and you can see that he's had that sort of arm around the shoulder effect. And he looks like the player that you'd signed from Brighton now.
He's amazing. He was man of the match in the first 2 games. And he just
dominating games.
It was a bit dodgy in the first 20 minutes against United, but other than that, he just bossed it, and he was in control. And he did a great move in this morning's game, or this morning for me. The kickoff where he just did a little body swipe, and he just completely lost the attacker.
Sent his ankles to hospital.
I
really like the look at that, and of course, you've got Bentancur to come back into that as well.
So that's what I mean. I think we're pretty good in midfield, and then at the minute you still got the Celso, and you've got Skip too, and you've got Højbjerg. So we're solid in midfield. It's just our defence and up front, I think.
Maybe a bit of experience at the back. Would you take a Maguire?
I think
Not
we
as a
need someone
starter,
with more
but
pace. I think we
yeah,
need more pace. I think what's been really refreshing with Big Ange
big
is
Ange.
is his substitutions. He just seems to make the right
At the
substitution
right
at the
time.
right time.
Yeah,
It's funny when you watch it as a fan, you always think to yourself, "Didn't you? Like, I'll bring him on now. I'll bring him on now," and the managers never do it.
yeah. But he
Well,
seems
certainly
to.
from a Spurs perspective, he does. So so both the United game and yes, and today, yesterday for you, he brought on Højbjerg just to like get
Yeah.
a bit of experience in the midfield, solid that up.
And he was
Perisic
really,
again,
really,
a
he
bit of
really good when he
experience.
came on, Højbjerg as well. Really good. Yeah.
So Perisic as well comes on the left, sets up the goal against United, and Ben Davies as well. So like we got, I think with I sort of heard a stat on the telly where last season we were the third oldest team, now we're the third youngest team.
Yeah.
And but at the moment, if these guys don't go in the window, we've got quite a bit of experience on the bench. So that the young guys run their legs, they do it for 60, 70 minutes, and then
Yeah.
the old guards come on just to shore things up and see us to the end. And as I said, I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I mean, obviously the crowd's reaction, at the end of the game and that it really actually said it all. And they're all singing, "We've got our Spurs back." And I think as a manager, if when you're hearing that from the stands and results are going the right, I mean, there was periods of the United game where, particularly like at the start and that, I thought, well, maybe United were getting a fair few chances. It looked like the game probably might go their way, and then of course you hit him with the goals and one. I think particularly after you got the first goal, the football and the keeping possession of the ball just sapped the life out with United, and they just couldn't get, particularly in the midfield as well. They couldn't get anything. They couldn't break the lines.
Yeah. Well, I think this is where Levy's locked out with Big Ange because with Poch down the road at Chelsea, if we'd have started badly, Chelsea started well. We play you guys in September, don't we? So if we hadn't started well, the crowd would have been right. I don't know, been against the manager. They definitely would have been against the chairman and the ownership. And then if Poch came to the lane, and as Chelsea often do at Tottenham, it could have been pretty topsy.
But it might.
But now, even if Chelsea came on one, now
you've got wins on the ball and good wins.
Yeah, but we're playing good football, which I think is more important. We're playing football that matches the Poch team of 15 to 17.
Yeah.
So there's not that kind of envious look, over the river and like, why didn't you make the call to the man, the sure bet, the man that we know can do the job. I think he's lucked out. He's lucked out massively.
Yeah, I think it's we're not actually too dissimilar because we've both got young squads. We're both probably going to looking at wanting to finish in similar areas and in a similar kind of position.
Yeah.
So for you, what would you take in terms of your outlook for the season?
I think going back to what you said earlier about Chelsea, it's progress, isn't it? So we finished 8th. So anything above 8th,
bit of European
is going
football
in the right direction.
Yeah.
So
I'd for me personally, I'd like to have a good cup run. If we throw a couple of quarters or semi-finals in them, a particular semi-final in the FA Cup or something like that, the trip to Wembley, give the fans a day out kind of thing, and give the players a sniff.
I think we're on the same page in that Spurs have to win something. So I care less about qualifying for the Champions League because Tottenham's problem, or Levy's problem, being Tottenham's problem, has been this fourth is first.
Yeah.
And that's not what the fans think. I would take finishing 8th and winning the League Cup. That would be progress.
Yeah.
Yeah. We could finish 7th and win the League Cup. That would be amazing.
And because it has been a while.
Yeah.
I mean, what's it? It's 2008 League Cup.
Yeah, you remember it well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. And I'd rather win the League Cup and finish eighth, seventh, sixth, and
Yeah.
then next season win the FA Cup and still be outside the Champions League places. And even fucking do a West Ham and win the Tin Pot European.
Yeah. Trophy's a
If
trophy.
like the club or the chairman needs to get out of this mentality of fourth is first.
Yeah.
The champion to qualify for the Champions League should purely be first step towards trying to win the competition.
Yeah.
And finishing fourth should be the first step towards trying to finish second or third to then eventually finish
Have
first.
a push for
and
the title.
Until you get in that mindset, what difference does it make?
Yeah.
So hopefully with this manager the club will change his mindset. I think Poch was, for as amazing as he was too prepared to accept the status quo. So particularly once we moved out of the lane, our chance of winning the league. If you had the points up for 15, 16, 16, 17, we were by far got the most points. We just didn't get the most points over one season. But then after that, not signing players, it was what I call the Arsenal track, post the stadium of just finishing fourth, getting into Champions League, and then when your fourth becomes first, and all of a sudden you don't achieve that, and you're out of the Champions. There's this great Bill Nicholson quote about even in the how does it go? The standards that this club set are so high that even in the echoes of failure, there's glory, or something like that. Meaning that you aim so high, you aim to try and win everything, you'll win something.
Yeah.
And the club hasn't done that for the ENIC period, but that's the concept, isn't it? And that's what we have to strive back to. And if we change our mindset, it's only 3 games, but the manager, he potentially could be the one.
Yeah.
Whereas before, when we first got him, I think most Spurs fans thought he'll put us back on track he'll get us playing good football again.
Yeah.
But he isn't going to be the man that changes it.
I think sometimes
I think he's so good at comms. I think we're all at the point of where we think, actually,
this could be the fella.
Maybe he could be the one. Not this year, not next year. Maybe not even the year.
I think there's always the trap, isn't there? That we all want a Mourinho, we all want a Conte, we all want these perceived, a Pep, perceived like elite level managers, and then sometimes the answer is sitting 400 miles away up in Celtic.
Yeah, and it's the right man at the right time with the right level. The thing with Conte and Mourinho was always about the fact that they felt they were doing us a favour, or the club was beneath them, and they were killing time until the big club came in. And I
think that's maybe an advantage with Ange as well, is the fact that it is a step up from where he's come from, and then from and from Celtic.
This job
Premier League, big Premier League jobs don't come around often. So and to me, he strikes me as a workaholic. It strikes me as someone that you can imagine him being in the training ground at like 6 o'clock in the morning, 3 or 4 hours before all the other players, preparing his sessions and whatnot. He would strike me as that kind of player. He's a player's manager, if you like. And I think you can see that, in the response of the players already.
I've just waffled on for 10 minutes about how not wanting to get carried away, but I was massively just getting carried away.
But that's what we do as fans, isn't it? Because you get a few results, it fills your heart with hope, and then you're like, do you know what? We maybe, and then you think, calm down.
The biggest compliment I can give him, and the great thing at the moment is that I'm looking forward to the next game. I want to get up at 4:30 in the morning to watch a game, or I want to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning to watch a game.
I mean, that's a massive thing, isn't it? But when you want to watch it,
I'm looking forward to it.
Because I
Yeah,
remember you
and I think
saying, you know, on previous episodes and that you know, it was painful for you to
yeah, it's a
to
chore.
make
It's a
that
chore.
effort to get
Yeah,
up and do that, because
yeah,
you knew what you were going to watch was going to be so bad.
yeah.
It's like you
Going
almost
to
like,
yeah, so yeah.
yeah,
Going to the ground under Mourinho was a chore,
yeah,
and watching Tottenham's Conte from afar was a chore. Whereas now it's like, oh, when's the next game? Tuesday or Wednesday morning for me, Fulham.
yeah,
Yeah, right, let's do this.
yeah. Check
You
the
know,
team news, make sure
Burnley,
everyone's
Burnley
fit.
away Sunday. Yeah, Burnley away Sunday,
Yeah.
two
I mean,
o'clock in the
I
morning.
made a
Get
massive cock
feeling.
up anyway. I've got Adam Madison in my fantasy team, and because he had that knock and they'd given him a 75% chance of playing, I took him out. I don't know what I was
Yeah,
thinking. I took him out. I kept Eze in, and thinking that, you know, because he left the game in a boot. You know, he was on crutches in a boot. So
yeah.
where I've been
Well,
working stilly shifts and whatnot, I didn't alter my team. I didn't check the team news, which is really stupid of me. And then of course he goes and puts in a performance like that, gets a goal.
well, I
Um,
said to you, didn't I? I've got Richie up front in my fantasy team because I just thought, well, Kane's not there. He's all playing. He ain't going to
yeah.
score 30 goals, but he should get 15. But
Right.
I'm going
And
to
I
have
mean,
to drop him, I think.
so I remember you saying like in your text to me and all that when we were talking about doing this, that we'd have a couple of little bets or whatever. So I'm going to start one off. Who's going to get more goals this season, Nicholas Jackson or Richarlison? Obviously, I'm going to bet on my man.
Well, I'm not going to bet on. I'll have to go with your guy, unfortunately.
And then the other little bet we'll have. I don't know what can we wager on? What can we wager on?
Who do you reckon will finish higher?
There is that, but what's the prize going to be? I've not really put much thought into what we can say. I don't know. Maybe we'll fucking.
Just the
Well,
pure
this is.
personal pride of doing,
I've dropped an
going
F
live
bomb.
on
You've dropped
YouTube.
an F bomb. We're gonna have to put an adults only content on this one. Yeah, maybe we'll like send each other like a drinks voucher or something, like, so we can, you know. So we'll have
to wear a Chelsea top on the next episode.
Yeah. So if rather than go for individual names, we'll go for whoever ends up being this season's top goal scorer for each club, if they outscore the other club, etc. So that'll be, say, that's part one. So we'll call that a case of beer or whatever.
Okay.
And then whoever finishes higher pays for the other one to have a takeaway or something. Like, you know,
Cool.
send each other a PayPal or something. And, so there we go. So
be careful. Food's expensive in New Zealand, mate. It just costs a fortune.
Oh, there we go. So there's two little wagers. Who will be, you know, will one player from either club step up and become a recognised top goal scorer, preferably for both of us, our number 9 position, and then who finishes higher, and it could be down to such fine margins as that whoever does finish higher potentially denies the other European football.
Yeah, I'm going to stick my neck out, and I'm based on the first 3 games, which is a mistake, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to say we're going to finish higher.
To be fair, and it does pains me to say it, I do think you're a few steps down the road from where we are, and yet again about the inconsistencies of young players, etc. But we'll see where we are after. I mean, so we've done this after 3 games, which was always the plan, that we said that we'd see a few games, see kind of where we are, and go for one of these sort of like Spurs Chelsea sort of bantery.
And we'll do a preview to September, isn't it? When Spurs play Chelsea.
Yeah. So by the time we've done that, we'll have probably another 2 or 3 games under our belt. So I think if we come back then after that game, and then we can dissect that game. I mean, we might have you on. You might come on before that. Fine, if we talk about another football topic, not just Chelsea Spurs, but we can, anything in football in general. But yeah, in particular, to come back and revisit this little,
nice one.
I think we won't go too much further because we want to leave ourselves some Chelsea and Spurs stuff. Wiggle room, get ourselves out of saying we're not caring, we're not filling ourselves with hope, which is literally all we have both done throughout this. And then we can come back and then look at more. I'm sure we can come up with some more questions. No doubt by then Chelsea probably would have signed another 20 players. Saying we wanted to trim the squad down, then we keep signing people. Lavia being obviously the most recent one for us, and Davide Washington, young 18-year-old kid from Santos, potentially could be a very good player. But yeah, we've got forwards stripping out her ears, mate.
Nice one.
Yeah. Well, you can have Lukaku, mate. I'll send him. I'll pay for the taxi fare. we can't give that bugger away.
No, it's a funny one, isn't
it? 35 million. That's all we want. Someone, come on, please. If anyone out there hears this or listens to this, and you need a striker, don't care what league you're in, especially Saudi, come and give us 50 million. Brilliant. Come and get Lukaku. I'm sure I could set up a GoFundMe page and we could pay for the airfare. So, yeah. All right, there we go. Yeah. Right. So I'll say thank you to Paul for joining me on this live episode.
No worries. Good to see you.
Paul will be back, and we'll see where we are in a few more games' time. So that's Talk Football Podcast, a special season 4, episode 5 live episode on YouTube. And don't forget, you can hit the links in the description, and that will get you to all the social pages and get in contact with the show if you want to come on and be a guest, like Paul has done. So I think this is your 5th or 6th time, I think, now across the 4 seasons even. So yeah, come and join us on the show. Thank you from me and Paul on the Talk Football Podcast.